Hey, we have made it, and presumably we are live, and we have our audio working, which is always a good way to start things out. So, first of all, welcome to the Impact Tribe Live. This is where we meet, greet, and learn about leaders who are positively impacting the world. We're streaming live to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And I am your host, Ashley Bright, the Message Fixer. And today I'm joined by Todd R. LeBlanc. And Todd is a seasoned lab manager with a 3-decade career focused on space laboratories, making him a valuable participant in the commercial space field. And today we're going to be talking about his new book titled Right Now, The Book of Odd, A New Perspective for This Reality. In this, Todd embarks on a philosophical journey, urging readers to embrace the wonders of existence. Wow, heady stuff. Todd, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, Ashley, it's a pleasure to be here, and I can't thank you enough. And a few weeks ago, you mentioned like you wanted to make sure that this information, you had not real concerns, but you mentioned that you wanted to make sure this information is accessible. And a lot of times when I have questions, and I have lots of questions, but when I have questions, I write articles to myself, sort of like letters to yourself, but like articles to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I wrote this book. I wrote this book as a series of articles to myself, asking myself big questions and talking my way through it. And
I
I really
love.
think that science, philosophy, religion, and even language is just a reflection of the human experience. And it is, in my opinion, I've written the book in language that is very, very accessible. And if I can understand it, and I really try to write it so I can understand it. If I can understand it, so can everybody else.
Well, first of all, I love the perspective of like when you have a question, you're trying to learn something new. You ask that of yourself to figure it out, and I think that's in itself a pretty amazing approach. And I mean, one of the reasons that I mean, many reasons, but one of the reasons I wanted you on today was not only just the book, but just the conversations we had many months ago in our connection call.
Yeah.
It really stuck with me because you are in many ways dealing with some, I mean, in your day-to-day work, you're dealing with some pretty challenging, interesting, technical, scientific things. And I remember, I think on that call, I sort of said like, I'm kind of a layman, I'm not going to get it, but like I appreciated the way you made it accessible. And
Mhm.
so I'm not surprised at all that the book is accessible as well. So with that in mind, I'd love to, so very briefly, because I know we want to talk about the book, but I would love to kind of just get a little bit of background on you and kind of how you got into kind of the area of interest that you have before the book, in terms of science and working in the lab and all those good things.
Well, I started working in a lab. I got, it was luck, fate, just the way things are. It's just strange. People think that, you know, it's there's a plot and a twist, and life has its moments, and it's all leading you somewhere. And I don't always know where that's going, but it is. I started off as a young lab technician in a space lab, and it was just an amazing place to learn and to grow. And there was so many people that were so smart, and you just have to latch onto them. I got a lot of how these are commercial satellites, so they're communication satellites. They go up in space, so there's different pieces of equipment on the spacecraft. The group that I was working with, we centered or focused in on the input multiplexer, so right after the antenna. And I learned everything from the solar panels to the batteries to the, just the networks involved, and the integration and also the procedures. But the most important thing that I learned all those years in the lab is working with people and integrating myself with teams and building great teams. And it's you have to appreciate everybody, and everybody has strengths when they bring it to the table. Some
Mm.
people are good at this, some people are good at that. Um, I was always a generalist. I was never good at any one thing, and I just sort of went out there and I tried to do my best, and I was positive and smiled. And at the end of the day, people focus in on the little problems that occur, but in the grander scheme of things, it's the relationships. It's how you feel with other people and how people feel about you. That's what makes a great team. And the team, if you have a great team, you can do anything. You can move mountains, you can launch satellites, you can do whatever you want, as long as you have, a good team and your heart is within that team. So
I I
why?
love that. Yeah.
That's how I started
I love
in
that. I mean,
space electronics.
I was gonna say just having that openness and that willingness to meet people and engage and build those relationships. I mean, I think nowadays it feels like the world is so divided and everyone's kind of at each other. But I think if you turn off social media for 5 minutes, you realize that no, we're human beings. We're all trying to get along here. We're all trying to just live our lives. And so I appreciate that perspective because that's obviously critical in the work you're doing. I mean, there's a lot of potential huge mistakes. Well, let me say that again. Small mistakes could lead to potentially big disastrous outcomes, I would suspect.
You can, but you have to have faith in your team, and your team has to have faith in you. And if you have a good team, like the best, some of the most important things that I've ever done is created a team that told me, Todd, you're doing something really dumb.
Mm,
If your team can tell you that and say, if they can stop you from making a big mistake, it is huge. It has a huge potential. And if they can honestly tell you, Todd, I've made a mistake,
mm.
you can fix things, you can make things better. If we all work at things together and pull all in the same direction, mistakes just disappear. And all you have is success, and it's amazing. Um,
Well,
and I wanted to point out another thing about science. I'll give Chapters in Indigo a good plug here. I hope you don't mind.
yeah.
I was at a book signing a few months ago, and I sold 10 books that day. And I can tell you right now, I earned every single one of those sales. It was a tough sale. But one lady came up, and I was at my little booth, and she marched right up to me and she said, "I don't believe in science."
Mm,
And I'm like, that's your opinion. You own it. It's not up to me to control your opinions. They're very personal. They're yours. But I asked her, I said, "Why are you in Chapters here today? What book are you buying, if you don't mind me asking?" And she told me she's buying a cookbook. And I said, "Well, a cookbook, you got ingredients, you have a procedure. If you follow the procedure, put it in the oven for a certain amount of time, you'll get a certain outcome. Um, a cookbook is really just a chemistry textbook. You do it as per procedure, you'll get the outcome." And she sort of smiled at me, and we shared a donut, and we went our separate ways. But I think that's the kind of things that people need to do when they disagree. They just need to talk it out. I think a lot of times people aren't as disagreeable as they seem to be. I think that we need to learn to listen to each other better active listeners. And I think if people were better listeners and could, listen to each other a little better, I don't think the divides would be nearly as big as we think they are.
100%. I mean, I always reference my children just because I have learned so much as a parent. But active listening is, I mean, it's a lifelong skill, and I think unfortunately there too many people are either waiting for their chance to say something rather than truly listening, or they want to come at it in a very defensive position, as opposed to being open to, I mean, this individual you mentioned in the bookstore, she could have, immediately shut you down and stomped away and said, "I prove my point and you're wrong," and left. But I love the fact that you had a discussion, shared a donut, and, maybe on the way home, she's now thinking about that in a slightly different way. And you've planted a seed that, is maybe going to germinate at some point in the future. So I love that.
No, I love those kind of conversations as well, because they stick to you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe she was burned by some bad information in the past or something like that. She probably has her real good reasons why she has this opinion. And I'm not here to change people's opinions. I'm hopefully sharing information, giving people enough knowledge, and that's what I do in my book. My book is not a book of answers. So if people are looking for answers, don't buy my book. Uh, my book is a book of questions, and I hope that the book gives people enough of a foundational understanding of this weird place, this odd place that we call home. And it doesn't make complete sense, and
Mm.
it's not, that doesn't have to make complete sense. It's up to you to fill in the blanks, and that's your role. And I hopefully that's what the book does, is it inspires people to learn a little bit and to ask their own questions. And that's really what I wanted to strive for. And if I accomplish that in any way, I'll be very, very happy.
That's wonderful. I was looking at an excerpt from the, or I think it's on the, I don't know, it's on the book jacket, or it was in one of the overviews, and I love this last line there where it says, "Consider it your user's manual for navigating this reality." And I love that because it's, as you said, it's like, this isn't about answers. This is about, it's going to pose some questions, it's going to offer some guidance and some insight, but it's very much about then how do you then take that into your reality, into your world, and move forward with it.
Mhm. And I break it down. I talk about a lot. I started off with two questions. The first question was, what is time? And the second question was, what is DNA? And I wrote
Mm,
articles on these two subjects. And the more I tried to learn about these subjects, the more complicated they became. And, what is time? I thought I knew the answer to that question,
mm,
and I didn't. And then I talked about, what is DNA? And I thought I knew the answer to that question too, but I didn't. DNA is a miraculous thing. It's the vehicle and the information, and where did the vehicle come from, and where did the information come from, and it's just truly amazing. So I go into it in great length. But what I usually do, in I don't I in my book, the book is written as a open letter to myself. It's written in a very open conversational experience. People who've read it tell me it's just like sitting there having a conversation with me, and that's what I was aiming to do. And I hope that that does come across. But the things that I was trying to accomplish, the informational pieces, like what is gravity? I'll have a title, what is gravity? I'll give a brief, very easy description of what gravity is, and then I'll go into a longer, more detailed description of what is gravity. Gravity is amazing, and we know
mhm,
exactly what it does, and we've known what exactly it's done for centuries. Newton, Einstein, they all described what it does very well. We don't know what it is. Um, and it is a huge mystery. It's holding us down right now. It's part of our daily lives. And we just shrug our shoulders and say, oh, I don't know. It's
mhm.
beyond me. And I don't think there's any real questions that are beyond us. We need to answer those questions. We need to ask those questions. And if we don't have enough information, it's up to us to get some more. Um, and it's really that simple. Go to your local library. I think people get too much information off the internet, and I'm not
Mm.
knocking the internet, but I think people need to go back to the libraries, read a book. It's an amazing place to start, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, I joke with my kids that, I say your generation, but I mean, I've fallen victim to it as well. This sort of, we want immediate gratification. We want the quick fix, the quick answer. And I think, I remember back to not that long ago where I would spend hours doing something, drawing or reading or trying to figure something out. And I feel like that is something that is sort of slipping away from many people in our culture. And so I appreciate sort of that. I mean, you're right up front. You're saying I'm not providing a quick fix here. I'm not providing an answer. I'm asking some questions. I'm creating curiosity. And I think that we need more of that. I've often heard people talk about the importance of boredom as a way to kind of like observe and take things in and process stuff. And it's amazing how we want to fill everything. We want to fill everything, all our moments of the day. We want to fill with something, otherwise we're not being productive.
Mhm.
And so I really appreciate that perspective. So I'm curious, like, so as you went through this book, those two core things, I mean, time and DNA, those are things that obviously are at the core of life, at the core of who we are as human beings on this planet. And to your point, like gravity, they are ever present, ever present. And they affect our lives yet. And I remember we talked about this in our on our initial call where I was like, time. Like when you really stop and think about it, like we came up with a way to measure it, but that's just how we're measuring it. But it's happening. It's happening whether we like it or not. It's like the rotation of the planets and the rise of the sun and the setting of the sun. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, like we have this idea that the future and past. The past is things that has occurred in the past, and things that occur in the future occur in the future. But realistically, our only window to time, our only window is right now, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the focus of the book. And
Mm-hmm.
right now is the most important time of your life. It's the only time of your life that you have any control over everything. You can't control the past. You can't control the future. You can do your best right now. And if we all do our best and we all pull together, and if we really, really, do what we're supposed to, make the best right now we have available, we can really do amazing things. We can start learning and stop fighting all the time and stop,
Mm-hmm.
we need to communicate better and really put our best selves forward and become leaders. People, they shrug their shoulders at politicians. Well, politicians, they're our brothers or our uncles or fathers or grandfathers. We can't, they're us.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't like them, it's because there's something inside us that we don't like. We
Mm-hmm.
need to do better. And politicians need to be a better representation of the people who they represent, us.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that is to go out and serve. If you don't like politicians, become one, and you know, go out and vote. Make sure that your vote counts. Make sure your vote is a knowledgeable, educated vote. Figure out who you're voting for. What do they stand for?
Mm-hmm.
And go out and make sure that you vote. And I think that's very important. And I mean voting politically, but also in your daily life. How do you conduct yourself? How you drive? Do you wake up in the morning and wave to your neighbors and say good morning? Because it's amazingly powerful how powerful something like just a smile, saying
Mm-hmm.
good morning to people, being a good neighbor, being a good person. It is
Mm-hmm.
in it's very, very powerful, and it's something that we all have control over. And I think people sometimes lose the fact, like they get overwhelmed with so many things. But you don't have to be great at everything. You just have to try really hard in the present moment. And it's very important that people really pull together, not get overwhelmed, and just think about this little sliver of, right now. Think about it and do the best you can.
Yeah, it's interesting. On the my guest last on our last episode, Rebecca was talking about that. Those small gestures, those small interactions throughout the day, to you might seem, like, hey neighbor, how's it going? Like seems like nothing, but to them that could be like transformative, could change their mood, could set them on the right course for that day.
Yeah.
And being present and being aware, and not like we're not on our phones, I'm not dealing with my stuff, I'm kind of like I'm aware. I wonder how many people nowadays get to their destination they're driving to and have no recollection of how they got there because they're distracted. They're thinking about 12 other things. And I love it's 100% right. This idea that like the only thing you have control over is this moment right now, and what are you going to do with it? And it's what I find really interesting because a lot of the circles I travel in on LinkedIn and the people I interact with, there's a lot of that sort of talk about mindset and being present and mindful and etc. And I think sometimes there's an urge by many people to be dismissive of that, like, oh, that's too wooey, oh, that's whatever. But I love that you're essentially saying the same thing, but you're framing it in a way that is I don't want to say it's not wooey in any way. It's really just being very concrete about saying like, hey, can you do anything about what happened yesterday? No. You do anything about what's going to happen next week? No, you can plan for things.
Mhm.
But like right now is what you have, these moments with your family, your friends, your coworkers, with yourself. And you know, can you take control of that and be aware of it and be present?
Mhm.
I love
And
it.
I've tried very hard to make sure that, the things that I talk about are, scientifically proven, that they are, I use a scientific method. I use
Mm-hmm.
the scientific method for all my observations. And I steer away from things that are you can't put your finger on it. You can't
Mm-hmm.
prove it. You can't, and that does not take any of the wonder and the beauty and the splendor of this existence. There's lots of crazy things in this existence that you don't have to flavor it. You don't have to add anything. It's
Yeah.
already amazing and beautiful and quite wondrous. And I really I emphasize that in my book. Take a look around. Does it make sense? Don't give up. Figure it out. And that's that it has brought me great joy writing this book, and it brought me great joy sharing it as well.
Well, wonderful. So that's a great transition because one of my questions that I often ask is, so what in your day to day, what in your life brings you joy?
Well, the experience, the interaction with people, really, I find my own personal success, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but my own personal success, I see through the eyes of people who are around me, and if I help other people succeed, I take their success as part of mine. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not trying to rise to the top. I'm trying to push everybody else to the top and coming along with the ride. Um, and you get to go more places that way. You get
Mm-hmm.
to do more things, and you get to see more people succeed that way. And I'm sort of a generalist. I'm not trying to be the best. I'm just trying to help everyone else do their best, and that brings me great joy when I find that I've helped a team or a team member or a group of people. um, it brings me great joy when people are bogged down with problems. I just walk in and say, hey, it's all my fault, blame me, let's move on and fix it, right? And because that's the important part. It's not really, who cares why it's broken, let's fix it,
Yes.
right? And that's the important thing. And pulling together and you know really exploring this wonderful place. And really, just another thing that brings me great joy is really just seeing the beauty in this place. There's beauty. You go to the backyard, you go to the park, you see a beautiful, you go to the grocery store, you see this beautiful apple.
Mm-hmm.
It is truly a work of art, and it's amazing, how how much beauty we're surrounded with if you just open your eyes and have a look. And I love to see it. The smile of a newborn baby,
Mm-hmm.
smiling at you. How can you have any bad feelings when you see something like that? It's just amazing.
Wow, I love it. I mean, you know, what you're sharing right now is I think the reason, well, many reasons, but one of the reasons why I think when we first chatted, like Todd, you stuck in my mind. You were like you resonated. We had a great conversation, and you know, I think we could all do better just to take that time, see the joy in things, see the wonder. You know, I've said this to my kids many times to the point where they're just like, yeah, whatever, dad. But growing up, I grew up in Vancouver.
Oh,
And Vancouver, for anyone who doesn't know it, I mean, Vancouver is a beautiful place, but it's cloudy like 9 months of the year, it feels like. And so I didn't grow up seeing the moon and the sun on a regular basis. And now
mhm,
I'm in Arizona, and I never take for granted the fact that like I get to see the moon in all its glory like almost every night. And it blows me away to sit there and look up at the moon and think about the fact that every single human being that has ever been on this planet is looking at exactly the same thing that I am right now. You know, and I don't know why that just blows me away that like you could take anybody that's ever lived, they're looking at the same thing. And
yeah.
to me, that is just this wonder. And to your point earlier, it's like there's obviously a lot of scientific research and study that's gone into understanding this orb that's up there and why it moves and its makeup and all these other things. but it doesn't change the fact that it's an incredible thing to just sit there and marvel at.
Yeah.
So I really
Well,
appreciate that.
I do appreciate it as well because I have a huge write up on the moon in my book. The moon is a amazing event. It happened. It's enabled life to happen on Earth. Without the moon, there would be no life on
There would
Earth.
be, yeah.
And it's so when you know the history behind it. There was a small Mars-sized planet that crashed into the early Earth, and our two cores merged, and it gave us the Earth's super core that spits out all this magnetic fields that protect us from radiation from the sun. And what was left over from this collision uh, became our moon, and it's drifting away from us right now. And when you find out the history, the science behind the moon, you're just blown away. It's like, wow, it's just incredible. The moon and the history and the life enabling properties of the moon are just blows my mind. And it doesn't. There's so many things that don't make sense. One of the things that doesn't make sense about the moon is the solar eclipse. The solar
Mm-hmm.
eclipse, you have the big sun, and you have the Earth, and then you have the moon in between every now and then, and it's at that perfect distance to block out the sun. Not any closer, not any further. It's at the perfect distance. And when you look at it, what what crazy things have to happen for it to be at that spot at this time? And the moon is slowly moving away from us. We're slowly moving, we're slowly losing the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And a few million years ago, the moon was too close to have a solar eclipse. And a few million years from now, it'll be too far. So, what are the odds that
Yeah.
human beings are smart enough to look up to the sky and see the moon at this point in the vastness of the universe and the vastness of time? What is the coincidences that have to align in order for that to happen? And it just blows your mind. It doesn't make any sense. It's a miraculous event, and it's all science. It's you can find your way. It's not mumbo jumbo. It's real, and it just blows your mind how lucky and how grateful we should be for these wonderful things and this beautiful planet that is perfect for us. Human beings. Why do we live on a planet that's absolutely perfect for us? It's amazing. You know. Um,
100%, 100%. And I love, I mean, going back to that, you're the person that approached you in the bookstore. I mean, I wouldn't have said this, but like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, science doesn't really care whether you believe in it or not.
well,
It is what it is.
Well, see, in my opinion, science, religion, philosophy, and even language, they're just expressions of the human soul. They're
Mm-hmm.
conversations. They're about this shared experience that we call reality, um, and that's what it is. That's what science is. People take notes, they observe things, they write it down. If it happens again, they can come up with this theory. They keep good notes and they can share. That's the scientific method. That's how we
Mm-hmm.
do it, and that's all science is. It's a conversation, observation. You come up with a few theories, and if they work over time and are repeatable, you share or publish them. It's not mumbo jumbo or magic.
Yeah.
It's just part of being human. It's part of the human nature. It's curiosity. It's what makes us wonderful, amazing beings.
100%. So, Todd, we're getting close to the end here, and I
I'm very
wanted to.
sorry.
No, 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 that's okay. No, I love this. This is amazing stuff. Thank you. But I wanted to ask one last question. If there's one thing that you could be remembered for, what would that be?
If I could be remembered for anything, and this is why I wrote the book, I want people to go out there and become the best self they can be. So if I motivated people in any way to pick up a book, to learn a little bit, to really help them experience this present moment, the now, because the more you know, the greater your knowledge, the greater your wisdom, the greater your ability to appreciate this beautiful world we live in. So open your eyes. If I could accomplish anything in this world, it would be to have people motivated to open their eyes and see the reality and see the beauty within this world right now, and make the best of it. Not just accept it, fix it, do your best, make something better. I don't even care what it is. Make something better. And if I motivate one person to do that, uh, uh, mission accomplished. I'm happy.
Wonderful. I think that is a wonderful place to end, and so thank you so much. Now, very briefly, the book is available, I assume, in all the usual spots.
Yep. Amazon, Amazon, and Chapters. Again, I got to give them the plug. They were very nice to me. Uh, Burns and Noble. It's available everywhere. If you go online, you'll find it. If you go into Chapters, you'll find it. Um, and it's in the philosophy section. It was I have a picture of myself holding my book and I sent it to my parents and they were very proud. So uh, if you I can leave a link in the description below, or I can send you one, whatever you want.
Yeah, if you want to send me one, I will put that in the clip that I'm going to share with it.
You could
And for
be
anyone,
my message fixer.
of course, of course. I mean, I think you are sharing wonderful things, and I just so appreciate you. And so, with that, I'm going to say thank you so much, Todd, for being here, and thank you everyone for tuning in. If you'd like to see the replay, it's going to be available on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And join me 2 weeks from now on July 25th, when I will have my special guest, Ricky Passanelli, who is the principal and founder of Make Partnership, as well as a dozen other things, and just a firecracker of energy that we all should get to know. And so, with that, I'm going to say happy Thursday, everyone. Thank you again, Todd. I really, really appreciate your time and your insights. You've definitely got me thinking.
Well, I'm glad. You have a great day, and thank you for having me on your show. And I thank everyone for listening. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.